Hello, wrestling fans. We are live on a Sunday with our first episode of Kayfabe with Keaton. I'm Crusher Crossen, five-time NWF champion, and I'm with me is none other than Wrestling Revolution Keaton, the Kid of Rock. What's happening, Keaton?
Yeah, so very excited for the first episode of Kayfabe with Keaton coming to you from Belfast, Northern Ireland. Which got what a first guest we have on this show. My wrestling coach Nathan Hoy, the head of Northern Ireland Professional Wrestling and the owner.
And so he's your head coach in training. He's the owner of the company, and quite a career himself, right? In the past in wrestling experience.
Oh yeah, definitely very
Yeah.
experienced wrestler to be having on with us.
Well, I tell you what. Let's bring him in. This is again Nathan Hoy of Northern Ireland Professional Wrestling, formerly NXG. Is that how we're saying that? Is it no longer NXG, Keaton?
No, it's turned into NIPW.
NIPW. Okay. So let's bring in our guest here, Nathan Hoy. Welcome in, Nathan.
Hi, you guys.
And we can hear you this time. This is good news.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
So, Keaton, you got questions and everything lined up?
Yep, Nathan. So great to have you on. We have loads of great people coming on, but first of all, we have Nathan Hoy, owner of Northern Ireland Professional Wrestling. Like we said, Nathan, the first thing I have to ask you is, what was your life like when you were my age? Did you live in Belfast? Can you hear?
Nathan, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, it's like a double distortion on audio for some reason.
Oh, is it like, does it sound echoey? Just make sure you don't have your YouTube audio on. If you have YouTube going on in the background, I think make sure you turn that off. That'll make it sound like a you got two audio sources going. You just don't want to have YouTube going. Can you hear us okay, Nathan?
It's still having like two audio sources going on in the background for some reason.
Yeah, so make sure you close if you have YouTube open somewhere, make sure you close it.
Yeah, I don't have YouTube open. Let me see. So, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yep, I'm here yet.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that seems to work. Thank you.
Okay, good. So go ahead, Keaton. Let's have that question
So,
again.
Nathan, what was it like when you were my age? Did you live in Belfast?
No, I actually grew up in Portadown, so I did. About 45 minutes from Belfast, and I moved to Belfast when I was 22.
Can you remember your first memory of wrestling?
My first memory of wrestling, oddly, it seems to be Yokozuna being presented flowers by the little Gaia girls in the ring. I don't know why that stuck in my head all these years, but Yokozuna was like the first initial like memory of wrestling.
So, would he be your favorite wrestler then?
No, Bret Hart was my favorite wrestler when I was a kid growing up, and then it kind of switched to Mankind in the late 1990s.
And then, how did you first get into wrestling then? Like doing it?
When I first got into wrestling, I was actually in school, and one of the guys I was like friends with, he was on the computer and he was looking up wrestling training, and he found a place in Belfast. It was Pro Wrestling Ulster at the time,
Yep.
and he said he was going to go do it, and did I want to go with him? So I went along with him, and I was like 16, I believe, at the time. But because it was only on a Sunday, once a week, I believe, it was like it was a good experience and stuff like, but it didn't last long because my mum didn't want me traveling on the train to Belfast on my own every week. So that there was like a big like gap between when I first tried and then I got back into it. So
And then, like, how did you come up with the name Young Lion?
the young lion character, well, when our like coach Damien Corbin at Uprising, he was talking about people had to come up with like some gimmicks and characters for their first shows and stuff. So I was thinking like what to do, and I was also training with Marty Jones, who's my main trainer, and he said that you got to do something that stands out, because everyone kind of looks the same, similar haircut, tattoos, you need to have something special. And he told me to wear a mask. So the first gimmick was going to be a karaoke luchador because I wanted to try and get on the holiday camps across England. And I thought, well, if you're doing something entertaining, like singing, come out, part of your entrance, that's going to be memorable. And especially with the mask, it's going to be a little bit more exciting. And with that, I will do to try and get onto the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, do like a silly gimmick on TV just to try and like get exposure. But Damien Corvin at the time, he says like, no, he didn't like that gimmick and he wouldn't put on the show. So I changed it to Young Lion. Kind of like because we were like training a lot and working our way up through the ranks. So it was kind of like, well, New Japan, they're like the young boys, the young lions in their system. So I wanted to come up like the black tights, the black boots, the white wrist tape, and to kind of make me different from the New Japan young lions. I put on the lion mask.
Yeah.
So that's where the young lion gimmick kind of came from. I know it's a bit of a long stretch of a question, but I thought I'd tell you how the mask stuff came involved with it as well. Like so.
So then, who was your debut match against?
Debut match. Can't remember who my debut match was. It was in a Raw Rumble, actually in Manchester, for Marty Jones. His promotion at the time that he was helping on. But as Young Lion, my first match was in Mexico under that mask as a new character. So it was in a tag team match.
And then, so I know you went to loads of different countries for professional wrestling. Where's your favorite place that you ever been to?
That's a tough question. I kind of like Portugal. Portugal's quite good. They have a really good, strong fan base as well. Wrestling's kind of new to the Portuguese fans, but they're very loyal. They're loud. They really get behind everyone. So from
Yeah,
start to finish,
definitely.
like, the show was like off the chain. It's just fantastic. The crowd really like get into it, and they look forward to meeting the wrestlers after the show as well for like the meet and greet. So yeah, I've even become quite friendly with some of the fans as well there. So I've made like good friendships as well.
I know you won.
Keaton, I'm gonna
Yeah.
just interrupt real quick. I want to remind everybody that we are simulcasting on both of our channels here, NWF Wrestling and Wrestling Revolution, Keaton. So feel free to comment and ask questions, and we do have a few, Keaton. I will go ahead and pull in one here. It's Data Revolution here. He says, "Will we see more promos on NIPW social media?"
Well, there's some exciting things coming up, like so some vignettes for upcoming new wrestlers who are going to join our roster and stuff. I don't want to give too much away, but I think it'd be pretty cool to introduce people through vignettes the way WWE used to do to hype up new stars coming onto their Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. So we've got a few of those in the pipeline. So we've been growing recently with our training skills. We've got a lot of colorful characters who are about to debut over the next couple of months.
And then he also has another question as well. He wants to know, did you ever wrestle at Butlin's? And what's that like?
Yeah,
Did
so
I
I
pronounce it
was
right?
Bolton's. It's like the holiday camps. So they're and it's like an old British tradition, like where the wrestling like they would tour and they go around the holiday camps, like caravan sites. And yeah, so I did Haven and Pontins, and I think I did Bolton's as well. But you do that through the whole summer for like up to 6 weeks. And you're wrestling twice a day. Twice in one show, but you're doing like 2 to 3 shows per day. So you get the match reps in quite quick. And it's a great learning experience.
I'm sure that was tiring.
Yeah, so it doesn't leave much time to get to the gym because once you do a show, you have to pull down the ring. You've got like the way the show works is there's 3 matches on the holiday camp, so 2 single matches, and then it sets up for a tag team match in the main event. So the show is about an hour long, with including the intermission. As soon as the show's done, you take down the ring, put back in the ring fan, and drive off like an hour or two down the road to the next camp. Rebuild the ring real quickly, back in the ring. So you don't even have like time to like pre-plan anything. You're just thrown out there. So it's a great way to learn how to work a crowd because it's a different crowd. You don't have time to talk to your opponent and stuff. So
Yeah. And then also Joe88 is out here says hi to Nathan, and he says and this will be my last comment, and Keaton, and I'll let you get cut loose
Oh,
again.
that's so right.
Will NIPW ever come to Newry?
Newry? Yeah, so we're looking at a couple of venues all over Northern Ireland at the moment, and Newry's on the list as well. So just stay tuned to our social medias, and you'll find out where we're coming next.
And speaking of social medias, like I know I have your Facebook there. Is there any others that you use for social media?
Instagram would be
Instagram?
yeah. And I don't really. We got Twitter, but I don't. To be honest, I don't know how to work Twitter. It's
Yeah,
such
you and me both.
So I like Instagram the most, because I think it's kind of engaging. It's more upbeat.
And what is your Instagram, just for everybody?
I believe it's at NIPW Wrestling. I think I'll double
NIPW
check.
Wrestling.
Let me just have a look. Instagram. Yes, NIPW official.
Okay. NIPW official. All right. All right, Nathan. Or I almost called you Nathan Keaton. Keaton, cut loose again.
So I know you won the SIWW championship. What was the moment like when you beaten Renzo Rose in front of the Italian crowd?
Well, that was a great experience, and be entrusted to win a belt. Not only a belt, but a belt in a different country for a different promotion, not like your home promotion. So someone to put trust and faith and to believe that you're going to put eyes on their product and help make them grow as well was surreal experience. And I, it's something I cherish, to this day because not at that time when I was like cut my teeth in the business. Opportunities are very slim over here in Ireland, so to be trusted by someone else in a different country to help be the face of their company was great. And Renzo
Yeah.
Rose is a fantastic wrestler as well. That
Oh yeah,
match
he is.
was his last match before he went over to Canada to train with Lance Storm.
Oh really? Lance Storm. So you won the Billy Joe Back Tag Team Championship. You were a semi-finalist in the Kung Fu Invitational Tournament. You you've helped obviously put on matches for celebrating old wrestlers.
Yeah.
You've done a Damage on the Memorial Cup. So it seems like you've been on, and you've done like a tribute I saw on the show to Darky Arn and Steph. So you seem like really honoured to be part of a country of wrestling. So what do the old guys mean to you? Do you believe that they paved the way or something?
Yeah, definitely. I have so much respect for people of our industry, to pave the way, to give us the opportunity to carry on a tradition. I like those guys that you mentioned, they're legends from our own country. And unfortunately, maybe pro wrestling in Northern Ireland is like new again. It's still in its infancy years because like once ITV got rid of wrestling on
Yeah.
television in the 80s or start of the 90s, there was like wrestling kind of died and kind of gone away because the popularity wasn't there. Because if it's not on TV, it was out of sight, out of mind type of thing. So that probably killed wrestling locally as well as internationally. For our guys in a sense, like for Irish wrestlers. So, but yeah, because they're the guys that give us the opportunity to carry their legacy, and I think that's something that we should do and we should be proud of as well.
And very brave move. You started in the COVID pandemic. What was that like?
Yeah, so we started in COVID, which probably wasn't the smartest idea. But I had the ring, and I was paying storage fees for in a shipping container to keep the ring, and the rent for to actually open up a wrestling gym wasn't that much different, to be honest. So we thought I spoke to my wife Rachel, and I said, maybe we should try doing this, because one, we can have the ring set up, and there's an opportunity, once COVID ends, we can like start a training school and start doing live events and stuff. And she seemed happy enough about it. So
You seem quite.
Keaton, I'm gonna go ahead and start our watch along while we keep asking questions. So we're gonna switch to a screen here, Nathan. It's gonna feature one of your recent matches, and then some of the training footage going on with all the juniors.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's take a look at this, and Keaton, just keep asking away. And by the way, we got lots of comments coming in too. So after a few more of your questions, Keaton, I'll bring in some more comments as well.
So as you said, you're honoured of the old Northern Irish wrestlers in the past, but why didn't you just let JDP go on with his promotion? Why did you decide to start your own wrestling company and make it one of the biggest things in NXT?
So yes, you mentioned like JDP and obviously Titanic Wrestling. For me, there shouldn't just be one place for people to learn. I think that, McDonald's is at its best when there's competition with Burger King. The same with WWE with AEW. People need competition. It keeps things healthy. I think there's more than one way to learn. I think by training with them as well in the past, I know what way they train. But when got my most of my training over in England, I knew things that I was learning over here at the
Mm-hmm.
time was wrong by the standard of the British legends and people who have a high reputable name value in the business, and they were telling me things that I was doing was wrong yeah because where I was
Don't really
from.
like the American styles.
So they said
Yeah,
like, don't be doing that. So then I wanted to also incorporate some of that British old school British world of sport wrestling, which is something that wasn't being taught over here at
and it
all.
should have been.
So a lot of people like they just focus on moves. I want to learn show people how to actually wrestle, which is
Mm.
something that other places don't do. They just show you one thing and then they move on. Or I tend to like just really hone in on the fundamentals and help people learn how to actually wrestle.
I know, because I can tell you have loads of respect even for the old British wrestlers for the pictures that you used to have at the back of the wall, and then
Oh
till getting Marty Jones, Dave Finlay Senior. Obviously, we got to do that as a surprise, and
yeah,
then to having Keith May on the show as well.
yeah.
and
And then,
we got some comments here, Keaton. Let's see. Um, I, the Carrick and District Pool League, that's their name. They commented earlier. They want to know, is there a date set yet for junior trainees and their parents for a study visit to Portugal?
That's something that we want to do. I need to speak to the promoter, Red Eagle, but there may be an opportunity in September to do like a trip over to Portugal. So that's something that we want to do. Is bridge that gap as well with international training with our young kids that we have in our juniors program. So yeah,
You know,
hopefully September.
I'll tell you, one of my goals in all of this as I make connections, and I don't think I've shared this with you, Keaton, but what I want to do is I want to see an international get together of some way, shape, or form with all the juniors all over. And have an event hosted somewhere. Maybe they switch it to Europe, they go to the United States, switch it out every other year. But I would love to see some kind of an annual thing where the juniors in every area could come and then work together. And that's kind of my goal. As I keep making my connections with what I do, I think it could work. I think you could do a GoFundMe to help raise money to support the travel expenses. But I think that's something that could happen. We're
that'd be a
talking
great idea.
we're talking years. This
Yeah,
is nothing that's going to happen next week, right? But I think that
Definitely.
could definitely be something that would really, and talk about experience for the kids and the teens. It would be great. Here's another question from Peter Brown. Hi, any chance of bigger arenas, Nathan? All the shows are sellouts.
yeah. So we have done a few shows in the past, like in different venues, which have drawn well over 200 plus. So we do like do our shows monthly in our dojo, and it's kind of more of a strategic way to try and like build up the funds because taking a show on the road, when you the cost of the venue, the marketing campaign, the van hire, the wages, the flights to bring in talent, all that kind of adds up. So we're quite lucky that we do those shows in our dojo because that money helps fund the bigger shows. But we may have a bigger show in July outside the dojo. So that will be announced hopefully on the 22nd of June at our next show. So
And
sure.
and Nathan, when you do the bigger venues, I know in this country there's insurance issues. Like you have to
Yeah.
have insurance for the event. Do you have the same thing over there?
Yeah. Well, the last show that we ran, like we got the insurance and everything perfectly fine, but it's just one of those things. It's costly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to run a show that's when you're outside your own venue and then run into issues with it, in case someone gets hurt, or something happens. So,
I
but
mean,
it's
they're basically just general liability protection type thing, right?
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Another thing, I'm not familiar with this, but Joe88 is asking, fan, is there a fan group to Facebook? And then he kind of followed up with, maybe this clarifies it better. He says, link to Facebook fan run group for NIPW. Is there another Facebook group that I'm not aware of besides the main one?
Yeah, Keaton, Dad, Joe, and a few other people like they're the admins of there's a NIPW fan group page as well.
Okay.
So
All right. So yeah, they're asking for a link to that, I guess. So I wasn't aware of that, but I mean, we can always provide that, I guess, right? And then Keaton Gizmo, Gizmo, he's one of
Yeah,
our regulars. Being this is Keaton's first episode, can he tell us a little about himself? A little bit about you,
well,
Keaton.
yeah, I do training with Nathan. This is the reason why I wanted Nathan on for the start, just to tell us about what I don't know about him, because he's obviously, I just know him from coaching me and running NXG. Yeah, I've done a few matches before on NIPW shows. I run a YouTube channel showing my training, showing Nathan shows, stuff like that. Massive wrestling fan.
That's for sure. If you ever go check out Keaton's YouTube page, you'll understand exactly what he's talking about when he says massive wrestling fan. You see all the stuff he's been able to get and collect and everything, just as a fans from a fan's perspective. Um, Also, another question here from I'm just going to refer to Ms. Carrick. What is the secret of the successes in the new chapter of NXG NIPW? That would be for Nathan.
what was that question again?
What is the secret of the successes in this new chapter?
Um, I think it's just that we're very lucky that we just have a loyal fan base. People have been with us from the start. That they're the reason why we're successful. It's nothing. I don't think it's anything that we're doing. I mean, maybe we're giving like a good product. I believe we are because people they're coming back. But I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
fans, they're the ones who want it, so they're the ones coming out. So I give all the credit to the fans. It's nothing that I'm doing. I can coach and help the young talent to like wrestle and help them on their journey. But at the end of the day, it's the fans that are the success story. Really, they're the ones who want the product. They're the ones who wants to see us do well. And without them, we wouldn't be anything really.
Well, I'll say, you're right there. I mean, with Ricky, we had him on Forward just the other day on our channel, and watching the fans, he is so over that
Yeah,
young kid, and watching those fans behind him, just energetic and everything, and Keaton, this that kind of excitement, you you can't buy that.
yeah.
That's genuine. That's real, and you definitely have a fan base growing there. There's no doubt about that. I can see it in the videos.
And the thing is, like even when we've taken our shows on the road, there's no denying like people like Ricky, the Canary Kid. They can't people can't be haters and say, "Oh, well, like, you've got family or friends in the crowd." No, these are
Mm.
general people that are living local in the area who are come to see the show. It's not family and friends. You
Yeah,
know, all the
most of it
time.
isn't.
Yeah.
We have genuine fans that are coming to the show, even when we're on the road taking shows on the road. Those fans like to get behind the characters, to get behind the wrestlers because they're good at being entertaining. They're good at doing what they're doing in the ring, telling that story. So in my opinion, like people like Ricky, they'll go really far, especially because he's such a young age.
hmm And he's learning
Like,
it at a young age and getting,
Yeah,
and
mm,
that's the advantage of all these youngsters to learn it young. Now we're watching this match with, and he just got demasked.
yeah,
That's always like you never want to see a wrestler lose his mask. And this is obviously one that you've trained, that you're in the ring with.
yeah.
What's it like wrestling your trainees like this in a match, working a match with them?
It's exciting to wrestle people like Dylan, DD Crooks. I've wrestled them so many times, all over like Ireland in like big theaters and stuff like in town halls. But when I wrestle line my trainees, it's always an honor just to see what they know, what have they been picking up during training. Because sometimes you think are they paying attention, or they, or not? You know what I mean? So then when you go to put your match together, and you see, okay, they've also been paying attention. So yeah, it's also exciting, and it's a great opportunity to give them that match as well.
Yeah, you've had some of your best matches with Dylan. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
And he makes a really good heel, I just got to say.
Yeah,
You can, yeah. I said John McCann, I thought did some great heel stuff too, being that he's not, he's a baby face, but he's a heel with Ricky. And then I thought that was good too. But yeah, this Crooks is definitely, he's meant to be a heel, just
yeah, yeah.
his demeanor and everything, the way he is.
yeah,
Um,
like I've noticed John, Ricky, Dylan, and people like that are Chris is obviously returning now, but see when you like, so you're there's obviously loads more coming through than there was before.
Yeah.
When are you gonna get all the new trainees on the shows? Are you gonna have like a show where you're just gonna have NXT next or NIPW next generation show or something where you're gonna showcase all the
I think
you know?
maybe just filter them in gradually. I don't want to put
Mm.
rush people. Like we rushed someone onto a show recently. I didn't think it was rushing them. I think they were training for over a year and a bit, and I thought, okay, I'll give them an opportunity. But when they got in the ring, um, you know, the nerves got in and got in the way for them, and so it wasn't a great match. Great experience. So I think they need to people. I think the best way for people to learn sometimes is just being a referee,
mhm.
be a ring announcer, try different things, be used to being in front of a crowd first, multiple times before you actually go have your proper debut match, because that excitement, you may know everything you're going to go in out and do, and then that excitement and then the nerves, it gets the best of you. It's happened to me plenty of times as well. And then sometimes it gets warm in the venue with all the lighting. You start to get what's called cotton mouth, where your mouth all dries up and you can't even like get any spit, in your mouth, to swallow. So you start to feel like you're dehydrating. So it's
Right. But no, I'm going to kind of follow up there too a little bit. I think though, with the junior training, because that's what I've really been focusing on with Forward, looking at all the different places that are doing this. And there's so many places doing it now. And like the folks over there in the UK, the Slam Wrestling, they have kids that start out at 6, 7, and 8.
yeah,
They after about 6 months of training, they do start having matches.
yeah,
But see, it's not. And I think it's a good thing to have that. The kids need to have an attainable goal, because ultimately every kid that's going through your training, they want to be in the ring in front of people.
yeah,
You're right. There's nerves they got to get over, but having it as a goal to be able to be attainable, so they don't have to necessarily wait till they're 15 or 16. Because you're asking a lot for like an 8 or a 9-year-old to say, yeah, you're really not going to get in there until you're 15 or 16. That's so if you give them a goal to be able to get in the ring a little bit earlier, but the way they did it in the UK, they eased into it, like you
yeah,
said. They would. We don't normally do this in the business, Nathan, but they would actually have a match routine down. The two people that were going to have a match would actually practice the match.
yeah,
This is how they got started. So that then when they went out, they were much more ready to do it because they knew how the match was going to go. And it's not normally how you do it, but for little kids,
yeah,
probably the way to go. And the match itself is not a high caliber 5-star, doing very risky maneuvers. It's a match that's at their level. And I
yeah,
think that's a good thing, to try to blend that in. And the way they did it over there, they would just have maybe an opener on a show of a junior match, and then they would go into their regular show, type of thing.
yeah,
But it gives the kids a goal, something that if I'm good enough and I can prove myself to the coach, this is what I can eventually get to do here. And it's good to have those kind of goals, even at that age.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
with like juniors, like the way, if I want to put them in like a singles match again, like I would like them to do a wee bit more amateur based wrestling.
Hmm.
Um, so that's something I want to like incorporate a lot more into our Saturday training sessions. Obviously, when kids come in, they see the ring, they're excited. They want to run the ropes, climb it, jump off the ropes onto the cross dummy. But the foundation, like the groundwork, has to start like at like almost like the amateur level. Learn
Yeah.
like how to actually wrestle and apply the stuff, because you can't expect like 6-year-olds to like suplex another 6-year-old.
Right.
You don't want them to get CTE, concussions and stuff. So
Exactly. Yeah, no,
um,
you have to ease into it. It's a gradual thing. Like those kids over there, they don't even have a match until after almost 6 months to a year of training, and then they start talking about doing it, getting into a match.
yeah,
That's how they do it. But and then when you watch their matches, well, they're suplexing, but that they're at that level.
yeah,
Um, but you're doing it the right way. Like I'm watching, those crash mat pads and stuff. That's exactly how you got to do it. To get used to it. Um, because you can't just take a 7 or 8, 9-year-old and just suplex them.
yeah,
Um, and I say that when back in the day, that's sometimes what we had done back then. But look, we're talking about doing it the proper way
yeah.
today. So
Yeah, public liability insurance won't get you so far.
right, right. So, but yeah, I think you take it time. And Nathan, you're the one to make that call. You're watching it every
Yeah.
week. You know where those kids are at, and if you feel that they're ready. But the best thing is though to get them in the experience, to get that live crowd. You know yourself, Nathan. When you get that live crowd reaction in a match, it's an addiction.
Oh,
It,
100%, yeah.
right. You want to be back there again and again, so that's why I think it's a good thing to maybe look at easing them in. Maybe a little bit, earlier than say 15, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Some of those kids are like, they're almost ready in terms of like, they have a lot of personality. I think they could, like, that alone with their entrances and stuff would wow the audience, get the audience behind them.
sure.
So there's a lot of them that've got great potential. They're all great kids as well. So I'd say Saturday is probably my favorite time of the week. When it comes to training anyone, because their
Yeah.
enthusiasm gets me excited as well.
And talking to Ricky, he seems to be very interested. He loves helping
Yeah,
train them too. He said he actually enjoys it. So,
it,
uh,
he'll make a great coach, and same with him and John. Like both every week they're there and they're helping out. So
Rachel as well.
and Rachel, of course, yeah. Thanks for
She's
keeping her
great.
mind. She's really good at helping. But I think like there may be a time where I can't do this anymore. So it's good to have like people like Ricky and John who are young, who've been there from the beginning,
sure.
be able to step up and take over.
Well, you'll keep Nathan. You'd still be a part of it, I think. I mean, I remember Eddie Sharkey in a chair the whole time training, and he was the trainer, right?
Yeah,
You, even if you get too old, you can still be a part of it one way,
yeah,
shape, or form, right?
100%.
Let's see, we got some interesting questions here, Keaton, and then I'm gonna let you loose again here some more. But let's get some of these in before they slip away from me. Joe88 is asking, will we ever get NIPW first female match?
Possibly. I'm not sure when, but we do have a new female trainee that started last week. So it all depends if she stays with it. I think it's quite hard. There is some female talent in Irish wrestling, but if they train at a different training school, for me to invest money in bringing an import over from a different country, that's a lot of money that I'm investing in someone else's trainee. So I think that should fall under their own training school to invest in them rather than me. So if we have female trainees, then 100%. But until they're up to the standard, they could be on shows. I don't really see the point in investing that money. It's a lot of money for flights to bring in good talent. Then you have to get hotels, pay them. It all adds up, So that takes a good chunk of the wage on, so of the profits of your show.
Sure.
Even like mixed matches, you could even do.
I don't really tend to like mixed matches, to be honest. I don't think they're
Oh, right.
any
Yeah,
good.
I'm not a fan either. I hear that. And even women's matches, the women have to be good, to
Yeah,
really have it, and it's not easy to
Yeah.
find, in the indie circuit anyway.
yeah. That's the problem. You have to be good. For me to invest the money to bring someone over, they're gonna have to be good.
And then here's one from Rachel Crawford. What makes a good wrestler?
What makes a good wrestler? Someone who's coachable, someone who's dedicated, and someone who has a never give up attitude. I think you need to be consistent as well. That's very important.
Yeah.
And Rachel's also followed up with a second question for both you and Keaton. What's kids classes like? Keaton, what's your favorite part of wrestling? I guess that's a good question for what we're watching here.
I think for me, like with my favorite part of wrestling, would be doing the risky moves. Like as you can see, you've probably seen in loads of my videos that even when I jump from the top rope and do the crossbodies and all, I get so scared of getting injured and all. But once I do it, you cannot have a better feeling than that. It feels so good.
Yeah, that fear factor, Keaton. The more and more comfortable you get doing it, the more quickly that fear factor goes away. So there's always a fear factor at first. Look, when I used to get slammed off the top rope, that was my thing. I was like, oh boy, and it took me a couple slams in order, in times of doing that. But at the end, it was like a natural thing, right?
Mm.
Same thing with what
Yeah.
you're doing. As the more you do it, the more you're going to get comfortable with it. Nathan, what did you like? What's your favorite part of the kids training?
Um, my favorite part is just seeing them, like the excitement in their eyes. When they get to learn something new, whether it be doing something off the ropes or just like, overcoming that fear factor, I guess. Because even Keaton, there'd be times where Keaton like would be, oh, I don't want to do that. No, I'm afraid of landing on my head, do this, that, the other, and I'm like,
Sure,
I wouldn't ask you to do something I didn't think that you could physically do it. And when he does it, like the excitement, he's all proud of himself. So that's kind of the things that kind of gets me excited. What I really love about the kids class is seeing
sure.
people overcome like their fears, their anxiety, um,
Just
and
building confidence,
yeah,
right?
confidence building. So when they
Yeah,
leave as well, I always say once you leave, you're going to hate yourself for not trying it, giving it a go. So
exactly. Exactly. And then Gizmo here has a question. He says, you mentioned it earlier. Does Ireland, you're talking about having this type of a match a little bit even. Does Ireland have wrestling in high school and secondary schools?
they don't do amateur wrestling in high school or secondary school. They don't. That was something that when I was a kid in my school, they only offer like for in PE, which is soccer, football, and
Hmm.
rugby. And you'll be lucky if they did basketball the odd time. So if you didn't like football and rugby, you were kind of screwed.
And
So
when you say football, are you talking about like American style football or
no,
soccer?
soccer,
Okay,
football.
soccer. Okay. Yeah, just so our American viewers understand what we're talking about here.
So,
Um,
but I asked my school at the time about wrestling, and they were like dead against it. So maybe they thought I was trying to do like WWE style or WWF at the time wrestling, but
well, if they don't allow amateur wrestling, you're gonna have a hard time getting in a school venue for any kind of pro wrestling show, I
yeah.
would imagine. Um, yeah. So then Joe88 says, "Do you think I should come back to training, Nathan?" And he's laughing.
Only you can make that call, Joe. If you think that you have what it takes, come back. You're always welcome. But I think you need to be people need to be dedicated. You can't be half foot in, half foot out. You have to be fully in. You can't be halfway out the door. If you want to be successful in this year, you got to be all in. I,
Exactly.
I tell that to people when they first start. Yes, it's cool if you want to do it as a hobby and give it a go and just see if you like it. But if you want to be successful and you want to get in shows, you want to travel, you want to do all that cool stuff, you got to be there. You can't just decide to.
Can't be a half-hearted attempt.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be there, be there. That's all I can say.
All right, Keaton. What else we got for questions? I know you got more.
So it's good the way you're talking about kids wrestling here. It's good the way this comes in. So where did NXT? Why did you come up with the name NXT?
So NXT came about because I thought, okay, we're going to build that next generation of wrestling in the country. It was the foundation. That was the building blocks of what we are to become eventually. But that's what it was. It was just like, yes, I'm going to like focus on the next generation. Like all these other promotions at the time, they had the budget and the money to bring in talent from different countries, or I didn't. We were starting from the ground up, and that's essentially what it is. Which I'll segue from that question slightly, because now that we've established our core group of our talent, they're no longer really the next generation. They are to a degree,
Yeah.
yes. But we do bring in a lot of imports as well. So we've kind of outgrown that name. I felt so that's why we had to do that rebranding.
So
Yeah.
is that as NXG, then you kind of just going to get away from that completely.
It'll be like a division on our show, so it'll highlight the up and coming next generation of stars. So there'll be
Okay.
like a spot on the show for dedicated specifically for people who are cutting their teeth.
Almost kind of your own version of NXT, kind of in
Yeah,
a way.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And what were the big dreams for NXT in the beginning?
It was just to like build a successful training school and put on like quality shows and hopefully get people a foot in the door in the business so they can live out their dream. I mean, I had an opportunity. It took me to go out of my way to live my dream, like to move country and do all that kind of stuff. Or I didn't like at that time. There wasn't really a place over here that was offering proper opportunities. So I wanted to be the first person to like, okay, well, this is what you can do. The goals are out there. If you put in that work, it's attainable, and this is how you do it. And be that mentor to help people achieve those dreams.
And did NXT achieve the dreams, or did they change along the way?
They achieved it and they changed along the way. So
Mm.
from where it is to where it is now, there's obviously a lot of changes that's happened. Um, for the better, I guess. I think everything has to evolve. You can start anything up. You're going to see. It's like even if you have a character for your gimmick. When you first start training to wrestle, you may think, oh, you want to do this, but at the time you start getting on the shows, that slowly like changes quite fast. Well, gradually it'll start to change from what you first wanted to do. So anything that you do in life really will evolve.
Well, that's a good segue to this question right here. Nathan, do the wrestlers decide if they become the bad guy or heel or not? Are the wrestlers in that decision, or is that something you're deciding?
I kind of let people have a little bit of free reign over their character. At the end of the day, the way I look at it, if I give you a persona to portray, your heart's not going to be in 100%. You're the one who's going to have to buy the gear. You're going to have to invest in promo photos, market yourself, get your name out there, try and get bookings on other shows. So if your heart's not in it, you're not going to last. So if they come up with their own character, I can certainly guide them and give them pointers. Or if they come up with something that I think won't work, then I'll certainly voice my opinion. Say, listen, let's take the best parts of that and then like change it slightly. But ultimately, it's up to them where they go with their character. I think is very important because they're the ones, I say, they're the ones investing in it.
And just a side note here, I'm watching this training footage, Keaton, and I see there's another bigger kid in that training there in your class here that's more along your size. We were talking
Yeah,
about
he
how
just
you're bigger
started,
than
Nathan.
we were talking
Yeah,
about how you're bigger
yeah,
than the other
Yeah.
kids. Well, now you got somebody there that
Yeah,
you
I'll
maybe
be
could have a match with one of these days if he sticks
Yeah,
with
if I
it.
done one of the shows, yeah, that would be
Yeah.
pretty good. We've only had like about four people my size that just came in the whole time, haven't we, Nathan?
yeah. Some of them are kind of younger, but you're like as you're growing up, it won't be long. Maybe another year or two, you could probably join like more of the senior class because you've been around it long enough. So, um,
Mm.
what age are you? 1911 or 12?
12.
12. Well, Ricky joined when he was 13, so maybe
Okay.
once you're 13, you'll join the adult class.
So
Yeah,
Mitch
that'd be
Baxter is
good.
asking us here, where do you see NIPW succeeding where others have failed? And what makes it different?
Question.
That's a good question, actually. I think we'll succeed because our heart, we've got a lot of heart and passion within the group. We all want to succeed together. We're a community. I think that's like the main thing that other places don't have. Like we've got a core foundation of a community that want to succeed. From the talent to the fans. Other places like there's backstage politics, people trying to get up ahead of other people. That's not the way to do it. You gotta be, if I succeed, you succeed, or one person succeeds. We're all part of each other's journey. I think that's important, because if there's rift between the group, it's just going to crumble. I think that's the problem with other places in the country at the time when I was going like coming up through the ranks. There's a lot of politicking and adversity between people. They didn't like if you got a booking on another show, they would like try and sabotage you in training. They would try and hurt you and stuff, just out of jealousy.
Yeah. Ricky and I were talking about like, and kind of in that same vein, when you got guys that are working stiff and they're in
Yeah,
a bad mood for some reason, or whatever, who knows why, and dealing with that. And I told Ricky, I said, and when you venture off to other places, you're going to run into that kind of thing, because that's out there. There's guys that we always call them spot monkeys.
yeah,
They only worried about their moment in the match, right?
yeah.
And you get people like that in the indie circuit, but Ricky has the right head on his shoulder, because, like he said, and we're talking about the Canary Kid, you just have to be the better man in that situation and just do your job in the ring, even if they're not. You know.
No, 100%. You'll get people like you're being told that you're going over tonight, and then they just get in the hump.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Oh, you just beat me with a roll up." It's like you want me to like just take an ass kicking through it for like 10 minutes and just beat you with a roll up? How does that make you look? If you're beating me up for so long and I can just beat you with a roll up,
Right.
it's your
It's
credibility. So
Yeah, they gotta you gotta think about your own character, even if you're gonna, if I ever was gonna I always enjoyed putting people over there. I don't know, it's different for everybody, I guess. I
well,
just look at what I'm doing for the guy in the ring, right? What you're doing for them and their match. You
well, I've got probably the worst win loss record in history. So
um, let's see. This is another follow up, Keaton, with Mitch, to that same question we just seen for Nathan. Where would you like to see NIPW in the next few years?
I'd like to see it grow to new heights. I would like to do kind of like a turn promotion where you could be on the road like 2-3 times a week around Ireland from the north and the south. There's plenty of venues all over the country, so that would be a goal. Like try to be like a full time regional wrestling promotion, kind of like the old school, like the way you would have like world class championship wrestling in Texas and stuff like all those territories. They would have a loop, so they would, every week they'll be on like a 3-4 day loop and hit those venues. So I'd like to get to something like that eventually.
Yeah. And then, do you think you'd have trainees as young as current?
The what, sorry?
Do you think you'd have trainees as young as current, the way they are currently now?
I think currently, I think the cutoff age is probably like 7. Any younger than that, the attention span kind of like drifts.
Mhm.
They don't. It's hard to like gauge their attention. They kind of like drift off and look to the sky slightly. So I think you need to be like at least 7 or 8 probably. So you're more focused.
Right, and it's good to start at that age. Initially when I was thinking of all this, I thought if I was going to start one, I'd maybe want them 12. But
Yeah,
the problem of getting them too old like that, this is being a teenager, Nathan.
yeah,
Girls, guitars, rock and roll.
100%.
Distractions come in. So if you get them a little younger, that's why if you look at karate and all that stuff, they start at 7 or 8.
Yeah.
You know, be, just for that reason, so that they can get them focused and really into the groove of this. Because you're gonna get distracted with adolescence, and just the way it is as they grow.
Once a girl comes into your life, that's the dream over, I guess.
um, let's see. There's another question here. Um, that Joe's a comment from Joe. He says one thing has to be said about NIPW is the storylines told within the ring. As a fan here in Ireland, I have been to other shows where they drop or change a story without explaining it to the fans. So it's more of a compliment, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
for how you're doing it.
Sometimes even some of the things that happens on the show, they happen kind of organically, from show to show as well. So sometimes it's hard to like if you're trying to pre-plan like a direction or something because people get sick or schedules don't match up.
Mhm.
But sometimes if you work it like 2 to 3 month basis, like and because we are consistent monthly, it's easier to tell those stories. When we've got our own guys that can do that. When you're relying on imports, it's kind of more difficult, I guess. So
And here's an interesting question from the professional. Will we ever see Southern Ireland shows in Southern Ireland?
yeah, possibly this year. That's something I'm looking about crossing the border. The main problem for me is literally I don't have my driver's license, so my wife has to do the driving. So it's all sometimes depends on her schedule as well. But what I'm hoping to do is like buy like a transit van or else like a big box trailer to take the ring on the road with us. Once I have that or on my own license, you can probably see an NIPW show every week. That's the only thing that's stopping us from growing at the moment is just not having our own ring van.
Sure. So that's a question I have, Keaton. You probably know this, but I don't. Do you guys have more than one ring? Because the only reason I ask is Ricky says that the ring he was at in a bigger show was a bigger ring versus the ring in the normal dojo. So do you have more than one ring?
Yeah, we've got two rings. We've got a 16-foot and a 14-foot. So the 14-foot
Okay.
stays in the dojo. We sometimes used to put the 16-foot up in the dojo, but it's limits the size of the crowd that you can have in when you're doing shows and stuff.
And speaking of rings, did you ever work in a breakdown ring, or have you always been in these newer style rings? With the center spring.
The ring that I have, the 14-foot ring, believe it or not, is like one of the old World of Sport rings that they used to use.
Okay.
So it's like 30, almost 40 plus years old. And it's
Oh, so
still,
that's probably got the spring in the middle then, right?
there has a spring, but it's like detachable, so you
Okay.
can use it with or without it. But the bars, they rotate. So once it like starts to like warp, you just switch it up and then it bounces back into a straight
Okay.
blade.
Sure.
So,
So yeah, because like I know like our ring was 20 by 20 with the
yeah.
first one we got. That was huge. When I went to Eddie Sharkey though, he had a 16 by 16. And you talk about timing
Yeah.
issues when you're used to a one size ring. So did the guys have any trouble with going from the 14 to the 16?
The benefit of the 14-foot ring to the 16-foot, so when you make that jump, is great because you learn how to keep everything centered in the middle of the ring. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
wrestling, hitting all like the timing is more on point because you have Neil done like working in a tight space. So I think the benefit is everyone should probably learn how to work in a 14 or even if in America, I know a lot of the rings are bigger. Should probably work in a smaller ring and learn how to like not get caught up in ropes. One of the promotions over here, Pro Wrestling Ulster at the time, they had a 20-foot ring. It was an old WCW ring, turn ring, and like you would even see people doing like a sunset flip, and even in a 20-foot ring, they'll be getting caught up in the ropes. I was like, how's that even possible? But just ring positioning, I guess that's everything. But 14-foot will help you learn how to keep everything tight and snug.
Sure. And if you see me snickering, it's only because of this comment, guys. Here, question for Nathan: who is your favorite trainee, and why is it the Canary Kid?
If I do that, it's Ricky, is it?
That's Ricky.
Who's my favorite trainee? Uh, I do have a soft spot for Ricky and John because they're like the younger ones, and then obviously Keaton. Anyone who's like younger, I have a soft spot because I know what's like wanting to do something, and there wasn't an outlet to do pro wrestling when I was a kid.
Sure.
So when I see the passion that they have for wanting to do it, it gets me excited. Like, and I like to see their enthusiasm to it. So
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you enough. Seeing you guys today having this opportunity, Keaton and Ricky,
Yeah.
you don't know how envious I am because 40 years ago we didn't have anything like this, and we had to take the bull by the horns. And thankfully, you don't have to go do that today. You have something like what Nathan has, where you can learn it, correctly, and not have to go through any kind of self training initially. That's huge. That is so huge for you kids,
Oh,
really.
definitely. Yeah. From what you had to go through, like obviously, like you didn't get any academies or nothing.
I mean, it was a great learning experience, and I'm very proud for what we did. But if I had the choice, if I was 40 years ago and this was going on, 100 times over, I would go into
yeah,
this versus try to do my own thing.
Mm.
I mean, I looked for this kind of thing. It just 40 years ago, this just Nathan knows this. This kind of stuff just didn't exist
no.
for kids.
Mm.
So yeah. What else we got, Keaton? I'm sure you still got a few questions, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. So, NXT has trained some absolutely incredible wrestlers, as you know, who went on to be some of Northern Ireland's best. Who would you say is the wrestlers that stand out the most in all of NXT?
They all have like their own unique. Um, there's something unique about each one of them. Like DD Crooks, he's a fantastic heel. He's underrated, but
Mm.
that's till like he hasn't reached that hardcore indie fan base yet. I think once like those, if he gets onto like a show like a Progress or
Oh yeah.
ICW, Rev Pro, some of those bigger shows like in England on the mainland, like he could blow up because he has something unique. And wrestling's all about being like yourself times 10. I think Dylan is Dylan, turned up. He's not as like nasty in real life, but or vicious, but he's actually quite a sweetheart. Ruined his gimmick here,
Well,
but
Ricky tells me he likes to open with the slap, though, right?
yeah,
In his matches. And I remember I had a guy, Steenerson, he used to like to do a sucker punch, same kind of thing. And
yeah,
he would connect with you just enough where you get a little angry, but, it's not going to, he's not knocking you
get you
out, but
fired
it's
up, yeah.
making enough connection. And, but you know what? That's part of the business, and if that's the guy's gimmick, it's only him trying to really get his character
Oh
over,
yeah, 100%.
open hand slap like that. Speaking of which, Keaton, now we got a question from Ricky here, not being tongue in cheek here. He says, for both you, Keaton and Nathan, who was your guys' inspiration that encouraged you to become a professional wrestler? He already knows mine. That's why he's asking you too. So,
I'll go first, right? If you want. The, so my inspiration at the start, I was more into John Cena and stuff. But the more I watched him, I realized that he wasn't the most best technical wrestler. So then when I started watching wrestling, you'll not believe this is this is quite surprising. But NWF and stuff like obviously watching it when it was obviously like if I see kid wrestlers, I'll want to do it. And then when that came along, that kind of inspired me. But mostly it was the Northern Irish wrestlers because like so Fit Finlay, Big Demo, Tucker, Melly Grace all got into WWE. That's sort of like a feeling that could make you think you could get into it as well. So and I realised that some of the Northern Irish wrestlers are some of the top chain at wrestling in all around the world. So yeah, that's kind of who inspired me to get into it. Loads of different people and all.
that's your hometown pride. I mean,
Mm.
I totally get it. Nathan?
My favorite wrestler encouraged me to get into wrestling was Mankind. Not because he was being thrown off cages or landing on thumbtacks. It was his character work. His promos. You can always tell someone about. You can read someone's body language. And just like, and even his eyes. It told a story. You knew. I felt his pain when he was in pain. And the match that kind of made me want to be a wrestler was because of Mankind when he was wrestling The Rock at 1999 Royal Rumble. It was just like I said, I need to. I was crying as a 9-year-old kid, and I was like, I want to be a WWE wrestler. I need to get revenge against The Rock. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So a bit silly, but that match like it's quite violent in a way. You wouldn't want like kids kind of seeing that now. But when I was growing up, during the Attitude Era, that match, it really affected me. Like I guess in a positive way because it made me want to do this.
Sure.
But yeah, Mankind was my favorite wrestler and inspired me to become a professional wrestler.
It's funny you mentioned Mankind because I'm wearing this AWA shirt today,
Yeah,
and in Super Clash '88 was Vern Gagne's one pay-per-view, and Cactus Jack was there. He had a match on that show, and when I seen this guy take a back body drop outside the ring, I thought, my gosh, that's because AWA didn't use any kind of padding. He
yeah,
took it right on the concrete.
he's
I
crazy.
thought this guy is something else. Let's see. Gizmo has a comment here. He's for you, and he says, Nathan, if Keaton and Ricky are representative of your company, you have very nice, well-spoken young men in your company. Is there a code of conduct that your wrestlers must follow?
Oh, thanks very much, Gizmo.
There is we have our pro wrestling like syllabus, training syllabus, um, and we do have our rules on the front of it as well.
Sure.
So, but I try and teach everyone when they come in like pro wrestling etiquette, and how to like conduct themselves in a professional manner because you're not just representing me, you represent yourself no matter where you go. And
Whipping your feet.
yeah, but just how you conduct yourself in a locker room situation, how you talk to people, is very important because those skills translate over to like real life into like when you're going for jobs, even in school and stuff like so. How you just be a normal like good upstanding civilian as well. It's all everything's kind of interconnected. I think.
And before this one gets away from me, I don't want to miss this. The Professional, unique name, The Professional. One of your strongest points, Nathan, is your ability to make good connections. How does someone make as strong connections as you have to other shows, schools, promoters, etc.?
It comes down to just being genuine. So when I was breaking in, like I used to travel all over the place for like to network. Um, so it's always being polite. Now that feeds into like pro wrestling etiquette. Always being polite to people and keeping your eyes open, your ears open, and your mouth shut, and saying thank you and like ask for help. And if you can offer help to someone else, give that help to someone because that goes a long way as well in this business. I think the more you help people, people take notice of it.
Sure. And this is interesting, Peter. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about this one, Nathan. Peter Brown says, "Will there be hardcore matches like chairs, tables, tacks, etc.?"
Well, the next show on the 22nd of June will have a dog color match between Sage Valentine and Stevie Fee. So it may get a little hardcore. It'll get violent for sure. They have a bit of a grudge going on at the moment. So
Mhm.
it's all going to pay off hopefully on the 22nd of June.
Do you think it'll live up to the expectations of DD and Chris when they done the dog collar match?
Well, hopefully. I mean, they're in the main event. So hopefully they close the show quite well with it. But I mean, it's up to them. They're the ones. I give them I trust in them. They're well trained, so it's up to them to put on the show, with the performance.
I can see them to be some of the biggest newest NXT stars because Stevie Fee, like he's only started in January and he's amazing. Same with Sage Valentine.
One hundred
Obviously
percent.
getting very good mentor, you and DD Crooks as well with Pure Filth. They're
Yeah.
going to put on an awesome match.
Well, Sage Valentine, like he started the good thing about Sage, he started. I think he started training last summer around June of last year, so coming up to a year.
That's the guy with all the body tattoos and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So he's doing fantastic. He's dedicated. He's there like 2 to 3 times a week, putting in the effort. But because he started as older, he's like I think he's like 31, I believe, 31, 32. He has that desire to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people leave things late in life or they never get around to doing it. Where he knows this is make or break. If he wants to do something in this business, he's going to do it, and he's very
Sure.
like headstrong. He's really, really good. He's got a band and stuff as well called Embrace. So he's used to being on the microphone and performing. So he has um, like a good background in like entertainment, I guess.
Well, that's one question I have that I was going to ask is one thing that I see when I'm just looking on the outside, right? I'm not there at the shows, but I think one thing, unless that is happening, I'm just not seeing it, but that I see other indies do is some kind of promotional build up for the matches, like whether it be promos in the locker
Yeah.
room to really build up a match that's going to come up. Is that something you're going to work on trying to do to maybe do some like promos to really build up the events that are coming up?
Oh well, we have like promos build up for our next show that haven't been released yet. Sometimes they do help, obviously, like push ticket sales, but the ticket sales are already all sold out. But I
Sure.
told the guys like, regardless if the tickets sold out, you still need to push that content because I can only do so much as a promoter. So you need to come up with that content because that's your brand awareness. That's going to get you noticed. But they're in the process of being uploaded over the next week anyway.
And where
So
do they get uploaded to? Like where do they show up?
just on our Instagram,
So on
and then
Instagram.
then the wrestlers they'll put it on their own social media.
So are you thinking of ever doing a YouTube channel then for NIPW for that kind of stuff?
Well, we have NIPW official on YouTube. It's our official YouTube channel. We've uploaded some of our shows from our bigger shows, on it from outside the dojo, so they're on it. But yeah, I'd be best to put up more content on it.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, I didn't know about the Instagram, but
Yeah,
and Instagram's kind of tough with videos, isn't it? I mean, I think they
yeah,
let
you
you
can
do
only put
reels
like
and stuff, but
60 seconds, like reels
right.
or something on. Like, yeah.
But
So feel,
I was thinking, like, Keaton does a lot for you
yeah,
guys. Like they video stuff and do
Mm.
things, and I envisioned like Keaton going in there with a microphone and like getting some actual promo work done with the guys and to really build up for the next event type. That's what I see.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like backstage interview.
Backstage kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably Keaton's next role would probably be like phase into like being an interviewer or
Mm.
kind of like because I think like Jim Cornette, he started out when he was
Oh
kind of
yeah.
young, and so did
Sure.
Paul Heyman, doing ringside photography, and they slowly make their way up
Mm-hmm.
through the business. Keaton's right doing like the videography, so he'll become an interviewer or a manager. You never know. So
Yeah.
That'd be a good role. Like,
And hey, we got a question here for you, Keaton, from Ricky. He wants to know on what wrestling. So, question for Keaton on what wrestling he enjoys to watch in order to learn more about the business. More about the business, I think he meant.
well, the type of wrestling I like to watch, I love. Not much kids would watch this, but I love watching old school style British wrestling. There's the likes of Johnny Saint, Marty Jones, and then I've seen some old local wrestling, with the likes of Dave Finlay and people like that. So I like watching all the old guys just to know what was there before me, and then it helps me learn more about the business. Obviously, with learning good technical wrestling, and then I also like to watch. He was this person was probably only like at that time. This person was like one of the best technical wrestlers, in my opinion, one of the best wrestlers of all time. Bret Hart. He can. I love watching back on his matches as well. He's had some amazing matches, never injured anyone, and I think it's right to say that that's why he calls himself the best there ever was.
That's for sure. And then Ricky has one for you, Nathan, as well.
yeah.
And he's apologizing on hogging questions. That's okay, Ricky. You hogged all our questions the other day. I just give him a hard time. I'm curious here on what Nathan's most important lesson he has learned during his career. So, what's the most important lesson you think you've learned?
Most important lesson would probably be don't sell yourself short. It's easy because wrestling, you're in a environment with bigger than life people. Sometimes people's egos inflate, take up the whole room, and it's easy to kind of like shy away and like not step up or speak your mind. I think you just gotta be a little bit more sure of yourself. Being like confidence is probably the thing. My confidence wasn't there when I first started as a trainee, which made me like quit. Because the environment just wasn't for me. It probably came down to the training school that I was at the time. But once I took myself elsewhere, like that took a lot of confidence to go over to England and different countries to like learn my craft. So I think like don't sell yourself short. And just it's confidence. It's like my biggest lesson is like be confident in yourself.
Yeah, confidence goes a long ways. And Mitch Baxter has a question. He says, who drives you nuts the most leading up to a show, and what's a typical show day like for you?"
I'd say Mitch drives me insane. He does like the lighting and the production side of stuff for me, which he does a really good job of it. But it's always like misplacing like a wire or something or an audio jack, trying to get the sound working and
Also, like
just
the colorful lights and stuff that
yeah,
I
yeah,
see, and all that stuff going off. That's what he does.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So all that little stuff that he'll help, But I think that plays a big part on the show. It helps bring a show together. Because it's not just the wrestling, it's the lighting, it's the music. There's everything. It takes more than just the wrestling in the ring to put on a show.
this next question is really interesting because it's one that I used to. Back in the day, when we did events, we always planned for the next event. So we were always planning like a month.
Yeah.
And his question, and it's something I wish now, if I could do it again, I would plan 6 months and I would plan further. His question is, and all relates to this. He says, "Is there a creative team who work on storylines? How far in advance do the plans go?"
Probably like 2 months. It's kind of hard to see past 2 months. Like we can like pre-plan like what venues we want to go to, But the problem is if you're trying to carry a storyline from the dojo shows to say a town that's like 1 hour away, those new fans like they may not know what's happened at the dojo show. So yes, you can put some stuff up on like on the projector screen and stuff like and show some like promo videos and stuff. But the problem is like storylines. You just I think it's kind of hard to like pre-plan a lot of stuff because again, you never know when people could get ill or pull sick or their schedules don't match up. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's easier to say that, I guess, if you're in a big company and you got steady people and
yeah, like
people that
WWE,
yeah,
like, when you've got like a television production and people are like full time wrestlers, you know, it's a lot easier because they're going to be there. That's their job. Where
sure.
independent wrestling's kind of harder, I guess.
All right, so we're all caught up there on the questions on my end, Ricky. Or there I go again, Keaton. But what else we got, Keaton, for questions?
So, NXT have been on some super sellout shows. Do you have like a favorite memory or something from the shows?
Favorite memory of the shows, I'd say probably the last show at Malone when Ricky and John main evented that show for the NXT Junior Heavyweight title for the first time when we crowned the first champion for that belt. I got emotional for that match, you know, because I was prior to I seen those kids like from 13 all the way up to 16 and from
Sure.
14 up to 17, you know, so they have been with me a few years, you know, to see
Yeah,
them, you know, I give a lot of trust. And it's not that I, you know, said, oh, okay, just you be the main event. They earned that spot, you know, to be, you know, we had, I don't know if you know who he is, Simon Miller from
yeah,
Culture. We had him, we had Shreddy on, we had a couple other people like, you know, imports, but the put two of our own guys, locally trained guys, close out the show. It got the biggest pop of the night as well, you know. So and the crowd were more invested in that than the people that I brought in. So that tells you everything as well, I guess. That
Yeah, you know, when I had Ricky, I used the match highlights of him
yeah,
coming out just to show the crowd reaction. And John, uh, just the stare he gave the crowd, you know, to get over as a heel. He didn't have to say anything. He just that look.
yeah,
It was just so spot on. To be able to have that down at that age is just incredible to me.
yeah.
You know how to work crowds like that.
yeah. And who were your favorite guest wrestlers and unsung heroes at NXT?
Let me see. I like Shreddy maybe. I like Shreddy and Mickey Limerick.
Yeah, Mickey's very good.
Yeah,
His match against Niwa was brilliant.
100%. So both those guys, you know, but I think it's very important to have like those guys on a show because they look like professional wrestlers. If people who are a casual audience who are coming to watch wrestling for the first time,
Mm.
their expectation is WWE. So you got to give them something like they see on TV. So when Mickey Limerick or Shreddy comes out, you know, they're like, it's not a gimmick. You know, it's
Everything.
that's his lifestyle for Shreddy. You know, he looks the part. You know, he's the Jack Stack Daddy as he calls himself. You know,
Mm.
he's and he's off to Japan at the later on in the month. You know, so he's making waves in the business.
And why did you rebrand NXT into NIPW?
I just thought that we are outgrown NXG in terms of like we because we do start to do more outside the dojo shows. A lot of our talent now are getting up. You know, they're no longer just. I think if people perceive NXG as next generation, they're just going to look at us like a training league, like a lower
Yeah,
level. Or I think we're bigger than that. And Northern Irish Pro Wrestling, we are from Northern Ireland. It's Northern Ireland talent, and I want to showcase that talent. You know, so I think that's the main reason is I want to make sure there's a lot of emphasis put on the fact that this is Northern Irish wrestling and training being like the forefront and taking this country into the future.
Makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Because at the start, I suppose you were next generation, and then they turned into this probably
Yeah,
Northern Ireland's premier promotion, which is good. But as I said, like you've grown so much so far. It's been brilliant. You've had sold out shows everywhere you went, even like higher places. like Portaferry and Malone. Is there anywhere you plan to go bigger outside of Lions Den to
Yeah,
progress the dojo?
we've got some shows around Carrick area coming up. We have Lurgan, we have Banbridge. We have multiple like places that we're going to like do shows. Um, so yeah, it's literally all that there's in the pipeline. You know, it's coming up in the next couple of months.
Isn't there a Portaferry? Isn't that one of them?
Yeah, Portaferry. The thing about Portaferry, it's like a seasonal town, so you couldn't hit it more than once a year.
Okay.
And that's something I've you know lucky to figure out quite quickly is like when like you got as a promoter you got to realize when the soccer or the football matches are on like big sporting events you got to base your calendar around those because people will choose to go watch the football over going taking their kids to a wrestling show.
Yeah.
They'd rather go have a pint and watch the football game.
You don't want to compete. Now, do you ever have a situation where you have you ever ran shows against your other leagues over there that you ran head to head? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, we did Malone Rugby Club at the same time as OTT ran the show in Belfast, Europa. So we had probably about 180 people in our venue, and they were just around the corner, like 10 minutes away.
So it didn't seem to affect it too much.
Well, no, ours was sold out. You know, you couldn't fit another person in it anyway. But the
Sure.
thing was, like, I went for like a new audience. They have like kind of a built-in core audience, so they'll not sell out their show because like their crowd's kind of dwindled.
Right.
Where we're new, we're fresh. When we take our shows on the road, I go out. I'll spend like 2 3 days doing leaflets through the doors, putting
Mm-hmm.
up posters all over town. So I'm getting like new casual audience and new fans. Plus, we'll carry over our fans from our dojo shows. So that's the difference. You know, they have they know they're going to sell their tickets. I was like, well, we're going for the new casual audience. We're trying to build up a new product, a new fan base. So I'll hit the street running. So
You already answered my question because I was going to ask, because back when we did it, we had a cable show, so the cable show was the big voice.
yeah,
But you don't have that now. You got really social media to replace that. And I was wondering, do you do posters and stuff? And you
yeah,
do, so
yeah.
yeah. And Keaton, do you collect those posters? I know that's always a thing that people like to collect is keep a history of the posters of all these shows. Do you keep them?
Yeah, I collected
Yeah,
one of them. But I normally help with putting up the posters as well. I put it around my town as well.
sure.
And what will the next chapter hold for NIPW? It seems like Pure Filth are going to take a big stopping. I mean, it seems like they're going to need someone big to stop them.
Yeah, they're a dominant force. What holds for them is who knows. I think the future's bright for CH Valentine and DD Crooks. They'll go as far as they want to go in this business. I think they've got all the tools to make it. So there's no stopping them really. You know, it's all going to come down to they'll stop when they want to stop. You know, so if there, I don't know if there's anyone in their way that can put a stop to them. They're very dominant. So only time will tell, I guess.
Keaton,
So
I got a question for you here. If I can put in here quick from Ricky, he wants to know. Actually, both of you. What are your top 3 matches in NXG NIPW history and why?
so
Putting both of you on the spot here, aren't we?
yeah, so this one's extremely easy to me. I think because number one, obviously, Canary Kid versus John McCann NXT Junior Heavyweight Championship. Number two, the dog collar match between DD Crooks and Chris Mercer, and then number three is Tucker versus John McCann, where John McCann got the life chopped out of him. He was bleeding all around the place, but he still loved getting the standing ovation, and it was two of them Northern Ireland's very best facing each other.
Okay, now you explained the last one. What was the reason for the top one and the second one, though? Like, what are your reasons? What's the why?
So so John and Canary there, their matches for the first ever time that they've had a champion, like a proper NXT championship, NXT Junior Heavyweight Championship, and it was two of NXT's household names putting on a show. Like Nathan said earlier, he had Shreddy, Mickey Limerick, Simon Muller, but it was Canary Kid and John McCann putting on the show, and they didn't need to do all the crazy moves the way backyarders or ECW and stuff would do. They done proper wrestling and didn't do anything a lot risky apart from that Dave that Canary Kid done. He just done proper wrestling and the fans loved it, and it was in my opinion, NXT's best match ever. And in the dog collar match with Dee Crooks and Chris Mercer, it's just a big rivalry. It was just genius of you, Nathan, to even think of something like that, because they've been friends from back in the school days. And then he was in Dee Crooks, and he was a hopeless first year, and that everything that Dee done, Chris Mercer followed along with him, and he says, "You're not following along my coattails, pretty much." And he says, "This is my world, and I'm going to show it's my world." And then Chris Mercer, it was just a really good rivalry, and it happened in a dog collar match with it being such a big rivalry. It was a genius idea, and in loads of table spots and stuff. Really, yeah, that's my second favorite.
You are totally vested, Keaton, man. You are just totally vested. Just listen to that whole description. Couldn't have said it any better, and I don't think anybody.
No.
Nathan, what about you? What are your top three?
And definitely be John and Ricky for the title. That match was my favorite. The second match would probably be me first John McCann in his debut match on the very first ever NXT show. Um, just to take a kid, like that was his dream, and just to have that first moment with him was great. And then a match I had with Ricky as well. It was a simple match. It was a good promo I cut before the match, and it got instant heat. But it was very just I didn't have to like beat him up, like slam him about or punch him. I was just doing like old British technical wrestling, just putting him in like a Japanese stranglehold and just just wearing him down. And the story was kind of before that match, he got to wrestle a guy called Abreu from Portugal, and he lost by tap out. So I was basically saying, well, you lost that match, and it's not that you lost; it's how you lost. You gave up, you quit, you tapped out. That I was disappointed in him. But the whole like match, like the way that all happened, and he finally put me into an STF, and the crowd were chanting like "top out, top out," So I was about to top out, the storytelling that much was really good. So that would be up there as well. One of my favorite matches ever.
Sure, and I think to your comment, Keaton, Peter Brown's. This is the same match, right? Tucker versus John match. Got a standing ovation, and it was a fantastic match. How did you feel when you watched it?
Who's up for Nathan or me?
It doesn't say, so I'm going to assume both of you.
Right, for me, it was great to watch. As you can tell from the very start, it's been John McCann's dream, and that's all he's been wanting to do. You can just tell that. And for him to face former WWE superstar Tucker was just great to watch. And he was like had so much pain. It sort of reminded me of Mick Foley, because Mick Foley just loved the pain because he could do good spots. With John McCann, he had so much pain, his chest was bleeding, but he was just happy that he got to stand on ovation and he got to face someone like Tucker.
Well,
And it was too.
yeah, when you're in a match and stuff, your adrenaline's going so much, you don't feel that. And he probably felt it later on, but during the match, you just you're numb to it, and that's you get caught up in the heat of the moment, right? So Carrick has one here for you, Nathan. Any outdoor venues planned?
Yeah, well, we said earlier on. So there's a couple of venues like around the Carrick area that we're looking at the moment. Bonbridge, Lurgan. There's multiple towns. There's multiple town halls that we're in contact with at the moment. It's just finalizing on some of those dates and making sure they don't clash with any big sporting events when we go to do it.
Sure. And then Mitch says, has NIPW had opportunity to give back to the community by doing fundraisers for good causes, anything like that? Any kind of fundraiser events or anything?
We haven't had any opportunity to do any fundraisers, but last year we did go to a children's hospice. A child was sadly was days away from passing away, so we got the opportunity to go up to a local hospice, and meet him. He was a huge wrestling fan, so that was something that I'll always remember. Just be able to give back in a small way. Bring joy to someone who's on their, who's literally about to die.
Sure.
I took Ricky, John, and Chris along with me to that. So they were great ambassadors. They got in their gear and stuff. They went up to the hospital and stuff to try and put a smile on someone's face. Unfortunately, the child was unable to see us once we got there. We took very ill. wasn't able to see us, but we did bring gifts and stuff up and left a message and stuff for him. So
I got to say, when I interviewed Ricky the other day, I asked him what his future plans were, and would he have any long term goals? And he said it would be hard for him to really think about doing things elsewhere because he's so devoted to you guys, to
yeah,
NIPW, and he just can't see himself, for as much as you've given him, he wants to continue to give back. Um, but one thing Ricky needs to realize too, though, if he ever got a lucky break, and that's really what it kind of
oh
comes
yeah,
down to, he would be doing you more favors than by taking that break because it would bring you a lot more attention in the long run.
oh yeah.
As anybody, right, that could make it, right?
So I mean, that's why I try and tell them, like especially John as well. John's like very like he's tunnel vision, so he really wants it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I always try and put him in those big matches with ex-WWE guys and stuff, like when we have an import over, because if someone's telling me that's their end goal is to be in WWE, well, that's the person who's wanting it. It's kind of be a waste to put on someone who doesn't really want it. The same way. So that's why he would kind of get those opportunities ahead of some other people. But that's the end goal. Once he makes it, then that carries over to our training school, doesn't it? Because then people are like, where does
Mm-hmm.
he train? Like, oh, NIPW. Okay, well, let's check these guys out.
Right. It brings you get the attention. You
Yeah,
benefit. You reap the rewards from that,
yeah,
and that's just the reality. And people like I was telling Ricky, your long-term goals need to be goals that today you just can't get. They
yeah,
should be unreachable because if you can reach them, they're not long-term.
yeah,
And but it's goals that are attainable. So I mean, eventually you'll get there, and you just got to keep doing it. It's just like with Keaton and his training right now. Just every week, same thing, and just keep at it because hard work pays off in this business. It always has.
absolutely.
And so, what do you think about the Chris Mercer and Steve Savage storyline thing that's happening?
I think Chris, like at the end of the day, Chris wants to be the center. Like he is the entertainer, so he wants to be in the forefront. He wants to be the poster guy. I think he wants to be the face of the company. So why is Steve Savage still a champion when he hasn't been there? Multiple
Mm.
times I've reached out to Steve, like trying to get him booked, but then his schedule doesn't match up. Either he's ducking and diving to hold on to the title. I don't know. But I think Chris is like hit the nail in the head. When he called out all the other champions, like where were they? They didn't put us on the map. It's our own guys that's doing that. Those guys they win a belt, they run off. It's hard to get them booked again. It's like it's almost like they take the title, so you don't have anything. So they're, what I mean. So but yeah, Chris, I think Chris, he could take that belt off Steve Savage. I think he's doing the right thing. It's like trying to take it back for us.
And he definitely should. Like he deserves it. Like
Oh,
he's put on some amazing matches.
100%.
So I got a question. Here in the United States, we always like to come up with characters that are outside the United States. Whether it be the Arabs, like the sheiks,
Yeah.
or the Russians or whatever. And now the big fear is like, oh, well, if they get the titles, they're going to take the titles back to Baghdad and we'll never see them again, type of thing. Do you guys ever try to come up with characters or gimmicks that are outside of Ireland that kind of do that same kind of thing scenario?
Well, I guess you kind of have like the English and Irish like rivalry, So I guess like it's national pride in that instance. But I guess we'll see where things go when Chris takes the title, because Shreddy is like top contender to become like the next, you know, in the heavyweight title picture. Like he's earned his opportunity to become a number one contender. So if Chris wins against Steve Savage, hopefully if that match takes place, then we could see Shreddy versus Chris, I guess, and then that'll be England versus Ireland.
So that is a thing, Ireland versus England
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
thing.
In all sports, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that even makes it more of an issue now with me with the UK guys over there somehow getting you two to come together and have an annual event because that would be like a Super Bowl, a mini
Yeah,
Super Bowl in the region.
It'd be cool if like Dave Finlay, obviously Fit Finlay's dad, if you know him, Sean,
Hmm.
and then Marty Jones
oh
having
yeah,
like a big rivalry or something. Obviously that would be England versus Northern Ireland. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually in the pipeline last year when we were trying to get into Carrick Town Hall because Marty Jones had like wrestled Dave Finlay in Carrick,
Mhm.
and we were planning to bring Marty over and do something with Dave as well, and then have Fit Finlay do like a promo on the screen stuff. So that was in the works at the time, but because the venue and the timing of the show
Mm.
just didn't play out for everyone, like, but still something that might happen.
Sure.
That would be class to watch.
And this article we see here on the slideshow, Nathan, what
Yeah,
was that from?
that was from Lucha Libre magazine, Rudo Can't Feel. It's if you've ever heard of Master Republic, they're like a Lucha Libre brand. Like they try and like bridge that gap from Mexico to America. You know, they help bring a lot of the Mexican stars over to America state wise. So I got an opportunity before I went to Mexico to kind of get sponsored slightly and become like a brand ambassador for them. So I was going to document my time in Mexico for their magazine stuff.
And has this been your mask all the time, or is this
Yeah, that's
changed? Or
I have that's the original mask, and then I have another one that's slightly different. It has like a mohawk on it.
okay, yeah, because I know with lucha libres, when you lose your mask, it's like I think the old tradition is if you lost your mask, you're done wrestling, right? Isn't that how
Yeah,
it went?
so you if you lose your mask, like it's like frowned upon you. You can't like wrestle under the mask again. I think you have
Right,
to like you. It's still something that happens today. Like Rey Mysterio when he lost his mask in America for WCW,
right.
he had to go to like when WWE.
Horrible decision, by the way.
So when WWE like signed Rey Mysterio, he had to go to like Mexico to like the council, like that runs like the athletic commission stuff, and ask could he get his like mask? Is he allowed to wear his mask? But because he didn't lose his mask in Mexico, the rules like they favored said okay, you can still wear the mask. So
Yeah, it's interesting. Keaton, what else we got? Any more
So,
questions?
where can fans get tickets, etc., for NIPW?
they can find tickets on our website nipw.sumupstore.com. So we'll
Right.
have our tickets for our live events on it, and plus our branded T-shirts. So if you want one of these T-shirts, then yeah, you can get it on it.
And as it's Kayfabe with Keaton, can you share a Kayfabe secret from one of your shows?
Something kayfabe. You have to go
Yeah.
back a ways.
The secret from one of our shows. I don't know. I think everyone kept a secret from me on one of the shows when Dave Finlay when he came.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Dave Senior when he came. So I guess that was the big secret because the people in the audience didn't know that was going to happen, and neither did I. So I think that
That
was
was
you
actually,
and your dad to help get
yeah,
that.
because
And
I think we all knew that like you loved the older version of like
yeah,
wrestlers, and I think that's how NIPW fans got bigger as well, because obviously that's how it started, for a big surprise for you.
oh yeah, that's something, and that's probably one of my favorite moments in wrestling as well. Like because having someone like Dave, who was a pioneer of our sport, in Ireland,
Mm.
came to our dojo and he said nothing but positive things about it as well, which is good. So it's not so much like the other wrestling promotions and stuff like you know, they may have their take on what wrestling is, but when you have someone like that, a legend, come into your training school and to your show and say this is how it's really done, and it's also told his grandsons to come up to us as well to do training when they're over.
Really?
So
Like
yes, David,
Brogan or David?
yeah, yeah, they've been
That'd be
told as
class.
well. So yeah, and now Brogan's now in WWE, so which
I
is cool.
know. Or Connors.
Yeah,
He's amazing, and so's David. Like with him coming to Japan tag team champion, the exposure in IPW we get would be
oh,
awesome.
100%. Like he's fantastic. Like so, hopefully we could probably get David over like for a future show.
Yeah, and then obviously Fit Finley could even accompany him.
No, you never know.
Probably.
That'd be good. If all the
Right.
stars align, that'll be perfect.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, you never know. It's like, I knew Sean Waltman back in the day, right, when he started. And but trying to get a hold of him now, getting through his agents, it's just when guys get big, you got this layer that you got to get through to
Oh
even
yeah.
really get to them. So it's like So, Nathan, thanks for joining us on this first episode of Kayfabe with Keaton. It was
Thank you
great.
very much.
It was really insightful to learn the behind the scenes workings of NIPW, and Keaton had all the questions lined up, of course,
Yeah.
and a lot of I want to thank everybody for tuning in and asking all the questions too, because that really made the show fun to interact that way. Um, as far as I just want to let everybody know about next show we do in 2 weeks from now. It's going to be on June 23rd, and we'll show a little graphic here. On the next Kayfabe with Keaton, two of NIPW's young sensations, Ricky Henry and John McCann, together coming on as guests together here on our next show, which is going to be 2 weeks from today, basically. And Keaton, that should be a good show.
Oh, that'll be a great one. Two people who've put on NXT's very best matches. Have helped the new era of NIPW obviously grow. John McCann, I think one of the first NIPW superstars. Two best friends in real life. Great to chat with. It'd be great to chat with both of them. It'd be a great interview.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great show. And this was it was fun today as well. And I'm really looking forward to doing this with you, Keaton. I'm glad that we've come together on this and done this simulcast, and I hope all of our fans on both of our channels have enjoyed this. And between his subscribers and our subscribers, we're hitting upwards of 3,000 to 4,000 subscribers. So which most people, by the way, are going to watch this in replay. It's just the way it is these days. It's hard to get. You just don't get a big live crowd. But we had plenty of people though tuning in, and it was great. I want to thank everybody for joining us on the first show. Any last words, Keaton?
Yeah, just thank you to everyone who joined in. Thank you, Nathan, for coming on.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
And Nathan, was there anything else you wanted to say before you left?
Not just thank you for everyone for joining and watching live, who stayed with us and offered some questions for us. It was great to interact with everyone, and hopefully you still stay up to date and more, check out NIPW if you're new fans. It'd be great to have you follow us on social media, so either Facebook, Instagram, or watch Keaton's YouTube channel, watch his journey. It'd be great.
Oh, one thing, Nathan, I should ask. If we have any kids in Ireland that happen to see this or are watching it in replay and they are interested in signing up, or adults for that matter, was the best way to get a hold of you through the Facebook link
through
there?
the Facebook channel. Yeah, Facebook would be the best.
Okay, so there's the link right under him the whole time. Just contact Nathan and say you're interested, and you'll get all the information. So, all right, for Wrestling Revolution Keaton, I'm Crusher Crossen. For Nathan Hoyt, thank you for joining us. And it's been a great first show, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye. Yep, thank you. See you later.